That was the craziest things. I did not expect to get choked in the meeting.
By Gunther Cunningham. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever or wherever you are listening to the HeliPod. Thank you very much for subscribing and downloading the HeliPod, as always, presented by Viore. These clothes truly have become a staple of my wardrobe for the last couple of years. The finest in athleisure wear that you will find anywhere. Shorts, pants, joggers, t-shirts, hoodies, jackets, board shorts, they have it all. You can wear it to go to hot yoga. You can wear it to hoop in. You can wear it to run in. You can wear it to lounge in. And if you're one of the ones who is lucky enough to actually be traveling around these days, it's my go-to travel apparel as well. Trust me, all of my friends, every single one that I have recommended Viore to has absolutely loved it. For men, for women alike, they have awesome joggers, fantastic shorts. I love the core short. My friends love the shorts as well. VioreClothing.com/helipod. That's VUORI clothing.com/helipod. Get you 20% off today. Do it. I promise you won't be sorry. It's athleisure wear with an edge. So that's Viore, and this is the HeliPod with the NFL wine guy. Will Blackmon joining us. Played in the league for over a decade with the Redskins and the Jags and the Packers. He's a Super Bowl champion with the Giant, and he has a lot going on right now. We get into all of it. It's the HeliPod, presented by Viore. Well, I must say, this is a first, drinking wine on the HeliPod with NFL wine guy, Will Blackmon.
Listen, that's the only way.
This is a little rosé we have here?
A little rosé, not just any rosé. It is Healy rosé made by Drew Bledsoe himself.
Wow, that's
so you got some NFL wine here.
That's pretty strong stuff from a great quarterback, one of the first $100 million quarterbacks, the man who, of course, was replaced by Tom Brady, and is making a pretty good name for himself.
Beyond
as a
that,
wine
yeah,
guy, right?
no, he's a force to be reckoned with in the wine world, based out of Walla Walla, Washington, which is where he is from and resides. So it's pretty cool, man. Yeah.
Well, we'll get into the whole wine thing here in a minute. I want to talk a little bit.
Hold on, by the way.
What do you mean? Hold on.
No, by the way, nice beard.
Yeah, I've been working on that, dude, for about 4 months now.
That thing has 6 colors, man.
Yeah, it's a little gray, but I felt a lot better when I noticed that LeBron had some gray in his beard. Did you notice that?
Really?
He has the big Abe Lincoln beard.
He does have
huge.
the big Abe Lincoln beard, yeah.
And right kind of underneath, he has 2 gray patches. And I watched some of the scrimmages last week.
That's from carrying all those teams, man. It's stressful.
Boy, hell yeah, it's stressful. But I'll take the little gray. My kids told me I needed to color it. And I'm not doing
man,
that,
you got to keep it authentic.
Yeah.
Season is the way to go.
I'm not doing that.
For men, season works. Women is different. They need to color
Well,
their hair.
of course, hundreds and hundreds of dollars every few weeks to get that hair colored repeatedly. My favorite thing was when my wife went in and she got it highlighted, and then there was too many highlights, so then she paid to go get the lowlights put in. I'm like, well, if you had done nothing.
I never heard lowlights. There's lowlights?
There's highlights and there's lowlights. Get your shit together, Will.
I'm sorry, bro.
Come on, man.
I didn't know.
I can't believe we just started off the podcast talking about rosé
and woman
and
hair.
highlights and lowlights. A new low or a new high here.
It's all good.
On the HeliPod. Well, Will, as I'm sure most of you are aware, is an NFL player for over a decade.
Yeah.
For several different teams, including the Green Bay Packers and my Washington Redskins and the Giants and the Jags. And it was, you were how would you describe your career? Journeyman?
Survivor. Straight up.
Because I was going to say grinder, but you survived for 10 years in the league as a 4th round draft pick.
I would say survivor simply, one, I had 9 surgeries. My very first practice in the NFL, mini camp with the Packers, I broke my foot. First play, snapped it in half. Well, not first play, first practice, snapped my foot in half and put me down for 4 months. And ever since then, it's a domino effect. As one injury goes and something else hurts. So it was a battle to truly, protect my roster spot, and then just to keep fighting for a position. Even when I became a starter, an everyday starter, every year I knew like it was on the line for me. So just surviving injuries, surviving coaching, surviving front office, all that stuff. So I would say it was that. Even though I had fun, and I was really thankful because that was the only thing I ever wanted to do was play in the NFL. That was it. And it's like a marriage, man. It's like you gotta love the good and the bad.
Yeah, well, it's just so different, right? You were
right.
You played both ways at Boston College, right?
I played both sides of
I mean,
football.
you were a two-way star. You were there with Matty Ice at BC. You were a fourth-round pick of the Packers, and you were part of that. You were part of a really good draft class. You had Greg Jennings and AJ Hawk coming in. Is that correct?
Greg Jennings, AJ Hawk.
2006.
Yep.
And that was an interesting year because in the fourth round that year, you had Owen Daniels, Michael Robinson, your former coworker at NFL Network, Brandon Marshall,
I was going to say, yep.
Elvis Dumerville, Willie Colon, and Barry Cofield. Did you play with Barry with the Giants? Or did you guys
I did
miss
play
him?
Barry with the Giants, yeah.
So a lot of good players that lasted a long time in the league in the fourth round that year. And Green Bay was coming off a 4-12 season.
Yep.
Favre was still at quarterback. And you're coming into Green Bay from Boston.
Dog.
What do you remember about that first year?
So here's what's crazy. What I learned, they said during the draft, usually we'll get drafted by teams you really haven't spoken to. And I never talked to Green Bay, ever. I honestly thought I was going to the Giants. I thought I was going to the Dolphins. Actually, the number one team I thought was the Chiefs. I met with Herm Edwards so many times. So I remember my pro day, they were out there. I got two stories for you with Herm. So at my pro day, they worked me out, and then we went into the film room, and he's like, hey, man, come have a seat. And so me and Herm are watching film, and it is all my bad stuff. It is 20 minutes of bad shit on
wow.
film. Oh, you kidding me? I'm like, bro, put in some like good plays, man. He goes, no. He said, I want to see how you react. What about this? And it was horrible. That's one story.
And Herm's a former DB, of course.
Former DB, yeah. The other story is at the combine, right? You get your car, you get your list of teams you go meet with in their hotel rooms. And I get in there with Herm Edwards and Gunther Cunningham, right? So they sit me down in the chair just like this. And they're going through situations. They say, what if you're in a club and Gunther gets up and he says, what if you're in a club and a guy just starts choking you just like this? He puts his hands right on my throat. And
Gunther Cunningham?
Yes. He said, what if you're in a club and a guy just goes just like this, chokes you on your neck? And honestly, I just lost it. I was laughing so hard.
I figured you'd do some type of MMA move or something.
No, I said, I can't take you guys seriously. I can't. I said, this is hilarious. He goes, but what would you do? I said, I guess I would have to call law enforcement. I don't know, like, what do you want me to do? That was the craziest things. I did not expect to get choked in a meeting.
By Gunther Cunningham.
Gunther Cunningham.
That's crazy, because he always, I've never interviewed Gunther. I've never talked to him, but he just seems like kind of an old school football,
he was old school.
No-nonsense
and
guy.
He was really cool. But I heard, too, they tried that with Mario Williams. I think Mario did knock him down. That's what I heard. I swear, I kid you not. I kid you not. So that was interesting, man. And my only visit was I took a trip to the Steelers, and Coach Cowher was like, yeah, man, we got the 32nd pick.
Yeah. So you're thinking you could go in the first round.
They mentioned it.
Right.
They got Santonio. It worked out for them.
Yeah, I'd say so, yeah.
But, and so it was so funny. I remember when the phone rang. First of all, during the draft day, I was so fed up. Because it's not where you got drafted. It's who got drafted before you. That's kind of what bothers people. Mm-hmm. I saw a tweet today. Somebody was like, NFL players or people are still mad about, people are arguing over the top 100. And I'm like, yes, players are arguing about it because it goes all the way back to like the high school rankings, right? You see who got 4 stars, who got 3 stars, who got 5 stars. Just like, man, I played against that guy. How did he get 5 stars? Same thing, college rankings. How did he make, all conference? I beat him.
So who pissed you off the most that they went ahead of you?
There were a lot of players, man.
But there had to be somebody.
You're doing your job right now. There
had to be somebody that you saw. You're like, come on,
But they were
man.
just okay. Here's the thing. Let me just put it like this. when it's all was said and done, there was like 4 corners that were still in the league after 10 years. I think it was me, Cromartie, Jonathan Joseph was still rolling.
Yeah.
I forget who else was it. But they were just a bunch of guys that I actually lined up against when I played receiver, and also guys who I have covered when I played corner. And I was just like, man, it was a long day. So finally, I got the call, 920.
So you're not going to answer that question?
Not at all. So 920. I have no enemies, Dan.
Okay.
I don't want to create any.
Hey, fair enough. Fair enough. I had to ask.
I can't be bitter. That was, what, 14 years ago? I can't be bitter
We've
right
both
now.
done our job now.
We did. Yeah, we did. So I see the 920. I was like, Green Bay? I was like, oh, shoot, man. I think this is the call. And I answer, and it was George Kuntz. He's like, hey, man, you ready to come be a Packer? I was like, okay, what position? He was like, DB. I was like, no problem.
So did you not know whether you were going to play offense or defense in the league?
I didn't know. I felt like I was getting action from both positions. But there was one meeting in particular. I met with the Atlanta Falcons in the hallway at the Combine. And their player director was like, hey, man, you know, we're looking at you as a free agent receiver. We'll pick you up then. I was like, bro, I'm getting drafted. I don't know what I was like, fuck that. I'm playing DB.
Good luck with that, buddy.
I said, I'm not playing receiver. I'm playing DB. So every team, I was like, DB.
Because you just felt like you had a better shot at DB.
Well, yeah, and that right there, that alone, when he was like, we'll probably pick you up as a free agent receiver, I was like,
forget that. That's not what you want to hear when you're
No.
a college kid coming out.
I'm at the Combine. Like, these are the guys who were projected to get drafted, first of all.
Right.
So, but imagine that. Imagine going to Pittsburgh, meeting with them, and they got the 32nd pick in the first round, and you talk to Atlanta. He's like, yeah, you know, after the draft, free agent, we're going to pick you up.
That's 2 opposite ends of the spectrum.
Dude,
right there.
that's-
So you really had no idea. Obviously, you were hoping, wow, I could go to Pittsburgh in the first round, but you kind of landed right in the middle of that.
Honestly, my range was 2 to 5.
And that's where exactly
Yeah,
where you went.
so
Were
was the
you,
deal.
when you look back, obviously you're bugged as a lot of guys are by the guys that go in front of them, but when you look back, was Green Bay the right situation for you?
I think Green Bay was the right situation because my issue was I can do a lot of things, but I never really mastered one position.
Right.
And the one thing I definitely lacked going into the NFL was learning how to study and watch film. I had no clue. In college, I didn't even look at my defensive playbook. I literally went rogue every play. So it's either interception or a touchdown. It was one of the two. Either I gave something up or I picked something off. It was crazy until I went to offense, and I had to study because we had a real disciplined coach, and it was like, you better be at your spot. And the reason I say that, why Green Bay was the right spot, is because the same year I got drafted is the same year we signed Charles Woodson, who I mean, the dude was my wallpaper on my computer. You know what I'm saying?
Pretty awesome, yeah.
Which is also creepy because he was on my team, and one time he came over to the house, and I forgot it was still on my computer.
I feel like you told me the story before.
I think I did. And
Did he see it?
No, he didn't see it because I changed it before he came over. But anyhow, and I say this because I think it was my second year, and I remember, like, I'm not making any plays on defense. And every game, my uniform is filthy from like diving and trying too hard. And I'm looking at Charles, and he's spotless, and he got 2 picks. Like he didn't break a sweat, and he has 2 interceptions, 1 for a touchdown every single game. And I just told myself, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna learn how to watch some damn film because I need to make some damn plays.
Because he knew where to be.
He just knew where to be. I didn't, but he also didn't practice. So that's what's really messed with my mind. Like, he didn't practice. You never seen him, and he show up Sunday like Jason Bourne making plays, dude. So it was wild. And I remember one night I went back to the facility, and I'm like, I'm just gonna figure this out. And I go into our defensive back room, and I look, and I see the fluorescent light from the projector was on, and I look in there, and he's in there. It's like 8 o'clock at night. He's like, hey, he said, come on in here, Will. He said, have a seat. I'm gonna show you some stuff. And so I literally sat down and got a full lesson from Charles on formations, down and distances, splits, concepts. And he literally was like, he's like, hey, I'll watch film and I'll find tendencies. If something shows up more than 3 times, I'm jumping it.
So you learned how to study game film from Charles Woodson.
From Charles. That's what really started for me. I was like, man, it's all about situational football because everybody's fast, right? Everybody's strong. Everybody has some kind of mutant ability.
Right.
But the difference is the mind. Look at Marvel. Who are the strongest characters? The ones that can read your mind, right?
You're right. No, it's a great point. And I think it's so often you hear fans talk about players who are, back end of the roster guys.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm like, you don't understand. These are, some of the most elite athletes in the world. There's only how many guys in the league? 1,500 guys.
About that, exactly, yeah.
So that is interesting. It was such a mind game for you, and it took you until your second year to figure it out. But to get to Green Bay as a rookie with Charles Woodson, Al Harris was the other
Charles Woodson,
corner.
Al Harris.
And Mike McCarthy was in his first year.
It was his first year.
Brett Favre was in his second to last year. You're getting there with Hall of
Some
Famers
action.
galore.
Oh, yeah.
And then you break your foot first practice.
Break my foot first. Yeah, we had Ahman Green. He was running back.
That's right.
Yep.
Batman. But was that mentally draining for you? Because I think your rookie year you played in 4 games?
I think so. It was draining because your mind is so fixed on like, okay, you can't get hurt because if you get hurt, they're gonna cut you.
Right.
That was my whole mindset. And I remember Al Harris reassuring me, he was like, Will, they drafted you because they want you here. They want you to play. And I'm like, yeah, but I went 4th round. They said, well, that's where they got you. They had no choice. You know what I'm saying? And that was the tough part. Because I remember my whole rookie year, broke my foot, came back, and then in practice, collided knees with somebody. And then I put ice on I didn't put ice on it. They put ice on my knee too damn long.
Is that right?
And it ended up freezing one of my nerves, and I had drop foot. So then this is the weirdest thing, dude, trust me. So then I came back after having drop foot, and then I remember playing against the Vikings, and I got blindsided and broke a rib. So my first year was I just took a bath in Guinness every day because I was so fed up.
Surprised it wasn't red wine.
No, I started with Guinness, dude.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And then you moved on.
I moved on.
Well,
yeah.
so Green Bay, you're there 4 seasons. Your second season, you play in 9 games. You guys go to the NFC Championship game, and that was Favre's last year. Did you get caught up in any of that? Did you follow any of that? Did you have any idea that he wouldn't be there the next year?
It was crazy, but I felt like a lot of it was in-house. But you kind of felt that. I think it was when Favre was hurt and Aaron Rodgers took over against the Cowboys, and he actually played very, very well. We lost that game in Dallas, but you knew they were ready to go.
Right.
Like this guy won't leave, but he just got us to the NFC Championship game, and he played outstanding that year too. So it was interesting to watch from afar, but the cool thing was like no one in the locker room really got affected by it.
Right. And you were slowly becoming their primary return man.
Right.
In that second season, and by the third year, you were returning punts and kicks.
No, yeah, because that was the thing that I was able to do. That's why in college I moved to offense because I was returning punts and we lost a bunch of starters. So my coaches were like, hey man, like we want to bring you on offense because you're the most dangerous guy with the ball in their hand. So that was kind of how I ended up saving my career is because, we had plenty of DBs and I kept getting hurt and missing those kind of opportunities, but we never had a legit punt returner. And Charles would do it, but they were like, okay.
They didn't want to use Charles there all the time.
No, because he broke his toe one time doing it too. So I was like, okay, I need to figure this out. I think the biggest thing for me is I didn't want to get my head taken off.
Well, yeah, who would? What were you? I never want to use the word scared with
you can say that because there are some guys that are scared. I found that out. Please.
All right. Well, tell me what was the most scary, kick returning or punt returning?
It's kick return by far. And I didn't know that though. I thought it would be punt. There's that famous video of Troy Polamalu knocking somebody out at USC.
I know.
Returning a punt.
Oh, yeah.
And
but kick returner, they have that full steam. Full head of steam coming at you.
No, but that's the thing. You always think it's punt because punt, the ball's hanging up in the air, right? And you have to make great judgment because if you don't time it up right, somebody could have been let go free and they got a free shot and you're not even looking. But yes, kick return, it's literally like running on the 405.
That's a good way to put it.
just
'cause I'm
guy-
picturing that right now.
It's just guys, boom, boom, boom. And then before, when you had the wedge, you had linemen blocking for you. So they would just run around the linemen and they get right to you.
Right.
You know? But once I learned, actually, I got smacked against, I think it was Tennessee one time. I think he split my chin strap in half. And then after that, I was fearless.
That made you more
Oh, yeah.
fearless?
Oh, yeah. I was like, okay, I got the worst now.
Okay, so yeah, that's as bad as it gets.
It's like when rookies, rookie receivers, when they get their welcome to the NFL hit, right? It's like that. Once you get smacked, you're good.
Dude, I cannot imagine on that level. You had a punt return for a touchdown, I believe, your second year.
Yeah, and wait, when you go see it, you'll see how nuts I was. I literally caught it between like 8 people.
Oh, we're going to put that video
And
up.
scored.
We'll find it. All right. They may tell us to take it down, but we're going to put that video up.
It's all good.
So 4 years in Green Bay, you have a nice run there, and then it's off to the Giants, where you battled injuries during part of that time.
Yeah, so 2009 in Green Bay is when I had that nasty knee injury. I think I did ACL, LCL, and also like a partial dislocation, I think it was. And so when I came back, my 2010 for the Green Bay Packers, my knee never fully healed. So basically, I couldn't even run on it. So I think they did an injury settlement. They let me go. And I was like, damn, dude, because that was the same year they won the Super Bowl.
Right.
I remember McCarthy had the meeting. He had like the blank roster, and he was like, fill that spot up. This is our championship board. And that would have been it. So crazy thing is, the next day, my wife wakes up. She goes, I had a dream you're going to New York. I was like, dude, I'm going to go to bed. She's
Are
like,
you still in Green Bay at the time? Or
yeah,
had you-
we were
okay.
in Green Bay
Yeah.
in our condo. And then my agent called. He was like, hey, man, Giants want to work you out. I was like, get the hell out of here, dude. I said, well, I need about 3 weeks because right now my knee is like jacked up. He was like, cool, they'll wait for it. So sure enough, I go out there and have a physical, and I'm nervous because I know my knee doesn't feel right. And Dr. Russell Warren, I believe it was, he saw the x-ray and the MRI. He was like, dude, the ACL was put in wrong. It should have been more, I guess, more on an angle. It was too vertical. And also, too, they did a cadaver, which there's a huge rejection because it's not your own tissue.
Right.
So both happen. So basically, come to find out, my surgery was not done properly in order to give me a best chance to come back.
Right.
So I technically failed my physical when I went to the Giants. But he was like, one, he thought I was a good guy. 2, I'm from Rhode Island. I guess he played for the Rhode Island Steamrollers, which was like in the 20s or something like that. I don't even know. And I told him I could run. So I remember I went and worked out.
Who are you talking? Are you talking about the doctor?
The
or
doctor and the Giants.
Okay.
Dr. Russell Warren, yeah.
Right.
And so he cleared me and let me work out. And you remember it was me and David Gettleman because he was the one there,
Yeah.
part of the workout. And here's what's crazy about Gettleman is I swear he's the nicest guy I ever met in my entire life. He's like so affectionate. He like gave me big hugs.
Really?
Oh yeah. He was the happiest go-lucky guy. That's why it's so funny. Like all
To
these,
see him get crushed now all the time? with
yeah, it's like
regularity?
this mean whatever type of guy. And I don't know, maybe something changed when he became the full-time GM. I
Right.
don't know what it was. But he treated me as if like I was Eli every time I was there. But anyhow, that day I ended up working out. I ran I think a high 4.05, with a messed up knee, and they signed me on the spot. And I didn't finish the season because my knee just atrophied and went off. And so I remember when the season was over, this is why I hold the Giants in high regard. When the season was over, they took the waiver I signed up. I signed a waiver saying whatever happens, they're not responsible, right?
Right.
So I took the waiver. They did. They ripped it up. They said, listen, your knee is messed up, and we feel bad like how it looks. So we want you to pick any surgeon, pick any physical therapy place, and we'll take care of the bill. And my contract expired. I wasn't a Giant anymore. So sure enough, we picked Curlin Job over here
In LA.
in LA.
Yep.
And then I went to Sports Science Lab here in Orange County. And yeah, and honestly, every time I sent the bill, they took care of it. This is during the lockout too.
Oh, wow. Which is not something that obviously they had to do. That was just, this was a goodwill gesture.
A goodwill gesture. So honestly, from January to about August, they took care of everything, every single thing. And then Jerry Reese, the GM at the time, he was like, hey man, people say it as a courteous, but like, hey, call me when you're feeling better, we'll work you out.
Right.
I was like, I'm calling your ass, dude. Like, believe it or not. And so 2011, when I got healthy, I called him up and said, hey, I'm ready to go. He's like, okay, let's see what happens. So I think it was a few weeks or months later, he brought me in for like a huge cattle call workout, and boom, I never went home, signed me on the spot, and that's the year Giants won the Super Bowl.
And that is a 2-year run there. You get a Super Bowl ring, and you know how that is. I mean, you come to NFL Network or Fox where you've done a lot of work, and all of a sudden you're a Super Bowl champ.
That's a big deal, yeah.
I mean, did you realize at the time how important that would be to whatever you did beyond your NFL life?
To this day, I still don't. My wife slaps me in the head about that. She goes, anything you do, you need to wear that thing. She goes, I'll wear it at Target. I'll wear it wherever. Like, you wear it all the time. I'm like, that thing is so gaudy and obnoxious. And she's probably mad I'm not wearing it right now. I don't even like think about it like that. I was just trying to play, but it is a huge deal. Even when I do like my wine videos, I announce, Super Bowl champion and NFL wine guy, I say those things.
Well, it's an interesting thing because whenever I remember when I was doing Total Access, they wanted me every time I introed every guy to, you're 3-time Super Bowl champion, Willie McGinnis, future Hall of Famer, LaDainian Tomlinson. And I remember I said that, future Hall of Famer. And I remember one of the other players said, so are you just deciding he's a future Hall of Famer? Like, who's deciding he's a future Hall of Famer? And I'm like, well, it's LT, dude. Like, he's a first ballot guy.
It's a given.
Yeah, but some, so I at that point, I'm like, all right, maybe sometimes I'll just intro the guys. But you want to give everybody their love. But I understand, too. I'm looking at it as, the point guard who is distributing to all of you guys, not as the guys who have the rings themselves. But, whenever you intro a guy, and he's not a Hall of Famer, he's not a Super Bowl champion, and you just have to intro the guy, and everybody else on set has some other accolades, you almost feel bad, right? Like,
no, you do. I mean, you find some kind of accolade or something, But, no, and I do mention it when I do videos because there's always going to be a first-time listener.
Absolutely.
So that's why I would do it.
And I did not do that off the top of the podcast. Super Bowl champion Will Blackmon.
Dude, I'm in the wine world, baby. NFL wine guy, that's me. Oh, okay, here's what's crazy. So when I went to the wine shop, this is earlier, like November, and there was a tasting there. And this guy walks up to me, and he just looked at me in my face. And he was just like, NFL wine guy.
No way.
I was like, yeah. He was like, what's your name? I was like, it's Will. Oh, okay, cool, man. Love following your wine page. I'm like, thanks.
That's when you know you're doing it right.
That's why I was like, that's validation for me. This guy had no idea who the hell I was. But he just knew the wine thing.
That's amazing. There's so many questions I want to get into about wine, but not before I ask you.
No, we're talking ball.
Not before I ask you about your time. I'm going to just skip over the Jacksonville years. I want to get to D.C. because I'm a D.C. guy.
I know you are.
And 15, 16 there, I had left. So I was there at the NBC station for 7 years prior to you getting there, and then came to NFL Network in 2013 after RG3's rookie year. And so you kind of got the tail end of that whole deal, right? Like
I got there when he got benched.
You got there when he got benched in Cousins.
Yeah. Well, when he got put aside so he didn't get hurt, and they owed him money.
And what was the locker room like when all that was going on? Or are you just so far removed from that and just worrying about yourself that you don't even think about it?
Yeah, so I came in the same year Scott McCloughan got hired.
Yes, the GM.
And I knew Scott from the Seahawks. That's where we had a relationship. And I think that 2015 team, he knew the roster needed reworking, so we had a lot of veterans on that team.
You went to the playoffs that year, right?
Yeah, we went to the playoffs because we had a lot of veterans. We had a lot of guys who, despite whatever adversities we had to deal with as an organization, we had veteran guys that just knew how to come together and get it done. We had a bunch of outcasts in that team. You know what I'm saying? And it ended up working out for us. So I think locker room wise, we understood like there's nothing we can't handle anything outside of what's going on here, because at the end of the day, we're the product on the field. Right. So they're not going to watch film and be like, oh, you know, these guys had a disagreement. This is why this guy didn't play well. They don't care about that. It's the same way with injuries. Like, oh, this guy, they don't care if you have a bad knee or not. If you're out there and you're playing, then you're 100%, you know? And I feel like with that team alone, we had just the right nucleus of people to go ahead and win the division that year.
So was that Gruden's second year there?
I think it was his second.
Yeah, it was his second year. So you play there in 15, 16. You had 10 starts in that 2015 year.
Right, they threw me right in the wolves.
And then after 16, McLuhan's gone, and you were his guy, and you didn't make it through. And then I had forgotten that you went to the CFL. Was it a full season? Was it half a season? Was it a cup of coffee? What was it?
It was a couple of Canada Dry. That's what it was. It was some ginger ale. That's all I got up there. I didn't even get coffee. I didn't get any caffeine in that place. Oh, so it was crazy, right? So I remember I have a contract. I'm waiting on a contract from NFL Network.
Right.
Right? And I'm also waiting to hear from the NFL. And in the meantime, I already worked out for a bunch of teams, and they all put me on the short list, which I hate the damn short list because, I mean, we're interested, but it's kind of like, I felt like teams did that because they liked me as a person, and they didn't want to be like, oh, we're good, because I knew I did well in my workouts. And then Canada hit me up, and I looked at it like, okay, this could be a situation where if I actually have some recent footage of me playing football, that could help me out. Because once you're removed for a while, then it's hard to get back in unless you have all the perennial accolades, you know, as an all-pro or Pro Bowler. And so I was so reluctant to go. I called every GM for their advice. I called people who've been there for their advice. And I even talked to Scott McLuhan. He was like, it's really good football up there. It is really good football. Just it's a different game. Like the field's wider, so the angles are different from getting hit, and the rules are a little different. So I literally got to the point where I was like, oh, all right, like I'll do it. You know, the guy was like, yeah, you come here, you're gonna start first game, boom. So I honestly went up there so reluctantly.
And it was Saskatchewan.
Saskatchewan Rough Riders, which is funny because when it's literally the Green Bay of Canada.
Yeah. Everything
is owned by the city. They're green. You get off the plane, smells like manure. Like it's Green Bay. They're sold out every single game. Everyone is diehard. So it's a great place to play football. Here's where I end up struggling with them is there was tons of egos from the coaches.
The coaches have egos for the Saskatchewan Roughriders.
Massive. Oh, big time, man. It was crazy because, prime example, practice was over. This is so dumb, dude. Practice was over, and they have mandatory cold tub. Okay, I get it. You know, a lot of guys aren't responsible to take care of themselves. And I pulled the coach aside. I was like, hey, I'm not trying to be like a problem. I said, I haven't been in a cold tub in 8 years. I don't go in the cold tub. Like, I do other things for recovery. He's like, you got to get in the cold tub. I was like, that's why I pulled you in confidence. Like, I'm trying to talk to you on the side, not cause a problem. He goes, well, you got to get in there. Because if you don't get in there, they're going to be like, why does he have to get in there? I'm like, they know why I don't have to get in there. You know, I don't need to say it.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, you know, you got to do this. And then the other thing, that was just one. It wasn't a big deal. I'm like, you know what?
That's treating you like a child, not a guy who's played, you know,
that's
8,
what
9,
I'm saying.
10 years in the NFL.
I said, okay, you know what? Today I'll get in for you.
Right.
You know, but you guys have to understand, you know. But that's what coaches in the NFL understood. Like, okay, you get a veteran, he's going to be a pro.
You're right. You have your own routine.
You're right. And so anywhere I went in the NFL, my reputation was Will's a pro. You're not going to tell him anything.
Right.
Anything at all. And so when I get there and I hear, like, you got to do this, you got to do that. And so they had one rule. If you're not on the active roster that week, you have to do one-on-ones every day after practice, which for me is fine. They got that high motion. Never seen in my life. The hell is that?
Right.
So what the hell is that? So there you go, man. I got you.
I like the play on words.
So I was like, I want to do it. So I practiced every day. I did the one-on-ones every day. And they say once you're on the active roster, you do not have to do one-on-ones. Even when I was active, I still did the one-on-ones because I wanted to get used to all the weird motions. They get a full head start before they run off. So one of the weeks came, and we're on this turf every day. I'm 34, whatever it is. And I remember my body was just like aching. And they're like, okay, well, you know, you're not going to go this week. So I'm like, why am I not going this week?
Right. I'm here to play, dude.
I'm here to play. After you guys begged me to come here to start, that's another thing too. They would not tell you who's playing, and it was crazy. So I remember I was like, you know what, you're gonna do one-on-ones. I was like, I'm not doing one-on-ones today, bro. I was like, you're not gonna do one-on-ones. I was like, not today, man. I was like, I just don't feel good.
Yeah.
I did everything you guys asked, and this one day, you're not going to cut me slack. They're like, everybody has to do it. So I remember literally the other veterans did one-on-ones. I took my shit, went inside the facility. And I was in the locker room by myself. The guy was like, you're not doing one-on-ones today? I was like, bro, I did everything you guys asked. Like today, like, especially if I'm not playing this weekend, like chill out. He goes, all right, man. So then if you're not on the active roster, you have to sign a form saying you're not up that week. So I go upstairs, and the form I get, it's a release form.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because the head coach, Chris Jones, was trying to make an example out of me. Like, if you don't abide by my rules, I'm going to let you go. And it was just like...
How many weeks had it been up there then?
I think I had like 4 weeks up there.
Man, you go to the CFL and you turn into a diva, Will.
You see, crazy. It's crazy. And even I had beef with the DB coach, Coach Shivers, because guys are asking me questions. Like, hey, man, how do you play this? I'll say, just do it like this. And then he hears, and he's like, no, man, you got to do it like this. I'm like, you got it. If they ask me a question, I'm going to answer it.
Of course. Right.
You know?
Based on 10 years in the league.
Yeah.
So
that's why I was done with that, because it was just huge egos. And I'm like, come on, man. I'm not, one, you guys aren't paying us anything.
Right.
Two, I'm in another country.
I generally don't like to get into people's business, although every NFL salary is public. But like, what's the league minimum in the CFL, or what was it when you played?
I don't even know.
Like 200.
I think I got.
Not even?
I think I got more at the Best Buy.
So a lot less.
I used to work at City Sports and when I showed shoes, and I think I got more there.
I remember City Sports. They had one of those in Bethesda. That was a Boston-based company?
I think so, yeah.
All right, so CFL, career's over. And you had been talking, obviously. Did you go to broadcast boot camp?
Well, I did go to boot camp that year.
Okay.
Which is why I was in conversation, having a conversation with the network, yeah.
So broadcast boot camp, for those of you who are saying, what on earth is he talking about, is an awesome program that the NFL puts on for its players, where they bring guys in like James Brown and Brian Baldinger, Kurt Menefee. I was a part of it. And it's 3 to 4 or 5 days, and players who have an interest in broadcasting come in, and they get FaceTime with all the network executives. It's
like a wide open audition, basically.
It's amazing. You guys get to put together a resume.
Like Emmanuel Acho, Dan Orlovsky.
Oh, yeah, they all went through it.
All went through it, yeah.
Well, I remember when Acho was there, and we had at the time, we had 3 hosts there. It was James Brown, Kurt Menefee, and myself. And we would rotate through the players that got to basically do a segment with us. And I basically felt like I needed to apologize to everyone who was in my group that they weren't with Menefee or James Brown, these 2 big, huge names of broadcasting. But I was so impressed with the NFL putting that together for guys who had an interest in broadcasting, because it funneled people to the networks, to NFL Network, to ESPN, to Fox. It was great FaceTime, and I mean, it led to 2 jobs for you. No,
it did, yeah. And honestly, I was gonna go to the advanced one this year, for that reason. But that's when I did go. And so right after that, I came back and ended up taking that deal that was offered to me, and that's when I started working at the network.
Well, and then the wine thing, as we are now getting into your post-playing career, it was Matthias Kiwanuka Were you roommates with Matthias?
We were
at
roommates,
BC?
yeah. Hold on, before you get that though, I have one more football story.
Oh, give it to me.
Can I share it?
Yes.
Okay, it's actually football and media related.
Okay, I love it.
Okay, so one of the opportunities I was given or offered was to go work at Sky Sports in London.
In London.
Yeah,
Right.
which I did last year.
Which seems to me that would be awesome.
No, but it was because of the boot camp.
Okay.
So I guess the MVP of the boot camp gets to work at Sky Sports.
For a month, right? They said
I went for 2 months actually.
Oh, wow,
they wanted
okay.
me for the whole year. I went for 2 months. And while I was out there, it's because they have their own NFL division on Sky Sports. And I remember I was still working out, still like training.
Right.
And
Like training like you were if you were playing?
well, yeah, because
Yeah.
we were actually talking to the Raiders.
Okay.
Because they were trying to bring in some veterans because they felt like they had a team that was ready to make a playoff push. So I'm talking to Mayock, my agent, like we're all having conversations. And we all realized like, okay, Will's in London. We're going to be in London. Will, you want to work out in London for us?
No way.
I'm like, hell yeah, dude. So Wednesday, I show up as a reporter. Friday,
You go work out
I go work out.
for Mayock and Gruden and all those guys?
For Mayock, yeah, for all those guys. And another workout. And it's the funny thing, if a team says they want to work me out and not do any other like combine drills, I'm like, great. Because, I mean, I would run. I told them, I was like, I'll run a 40. I don't care about that. Guys
Right.
get scared because they get older and they feel they got slower. I'll put it out there. I'll run whatever. But it was just drills, same thing, just went off. I remember Deshaun Kaiser was the quarterback, he was throwing the ball over here to damn Ireland. I'm like, dude, just keep it in the field, bro.
It's part of the problem with Kaiser.
No, but that's what they wanted. So I ended up, once again, killed the workout. And I remember Mayock was like, dude, I didn't think you were going to look like that at all. So put you on the short list.
Right.
Which means literally the next guy get hurt, if the guy gets hurt, you're the next man up.
So this is 2019?
This is last year.
This is last year.
This is last year.
Okay.
Yeah. And put me on the short list, ready to go. It was awesome workout. So then later that year, I get back to the States. And I remember I'm watching the Raiders. I think they're playing the Chargers. Jordan goes down. Joseph goes down. I'm like, honey,
Here we go.
pack my shit. So I'm packing my bag, like, let's go. And then nothing yet. And then I'm like, what's up? Like, next man up. Oh, we're gonna work out some guys. Which is, I get that.
Right.
You want to do your due diligence for sure. And I remember they worked out DJ Swearinger, and I'm like, DJ's gonna work out really well.
Well, you played with DJ.
I played with DJ,
Yeah.
and DJ is a really good athlete. He's
Yeah.
gonna work out very, very well. DJ has energy that's like infectious for people. Like they love being around him because he really cares about the game. And I was like, hopefully they still honor like, okay, Will did really well. And what DJ has over me, he's 28.
Yeah.
So I knew right away, boom, sure enough, I heard that they are going to sign him because I'm signing CAA media side.
Right.
And he signed CAA football side. And I found out, okay, they're going to sign him. And I asked Mayock, I was like, what happened? He's like, I got outvoted.
Oh, really?
I'm like, how'd you get outvoted? You're the GM.
Yeah. Well, we kind of know the structure in that organization.
He's like, I got voted, and he's 28.
Yeah. Understandable.
I get the 28 thing. I get it, But I'm like I've been there, I've been there before in terms of like how to build a team.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So after that happened, that's where I was. Last year, I was officially done. Because what happened for me, man, it was like the politics is what made football not fun.
Right.
I literally was losing a lot of fun when I was in Washington because it was never about football.
In Washington.
On the
or
Redskins.
everywhere.
Yeah, no, on the Redskins. Specifically there. It was never about football. And that's the part that bothered me a lot. It was just more so about the organization, the reputation, how we looked in terms of as a whole. It was never about, let's just go play football.
Let's just go win on the field.
Yeah.
Take a quick break now to tell you about a few of our sponsors. Greens Plus has been a health food leader since 1989, known for creating the first ever blended green superfood powder and the first company to infuse that green superfood into a bar. And they're delicious. I'm telling you, you're gonna love them. You can detox your body, improve your immunity, boost your energy, and get the nutritional insurance that your body deserves. It's an all-organic, gluten-free, soy-free, premium green superfood. You can get it at Whole Foods or Amazon, or if you want to be smart and save money, go to greensplus.com. You get 20% off using the promo code HELI. 20% off greensplus.com using the promo code HELI. I really love the chocolate protein bar and the wild berry superfood powder. You just pour it into your smoothie and it is scrumptious. At Vaco, the motto is we invest in your career, so you are here for the duration of ours. Vaco is a premier talent and solutions firm that provides boutique level service with global reach in the areas of consulting, consultative project resources, executive search, permanent placement, and strategic staffing. You need somebody to fill that C-suite position? Vaco has you covered. Their areas of expertise are aplenty: accounting, finance, technology, healthcare IT, operations, administration, or international managed services. Founded in 2002, Vaco has grown to serve over 40 markets across the globe. They have 1,000 employees, 5,000 consultants, and $750 million in revenue. At Vaco, they do it right. How do I know? Because one of my good buddies from college, Brian Waller, was one of the founders of the company, and I've watched them build since 2002. And man, it's been fun. This is a big time company and they can help you, small or large, doesn't matter. Check them out at vaco.com for more information on how they connect people to their dream jobs and helps leading companies find talent to grow their business. So I started taking this product a couple of weeks ago called True Niagen to invest in my long-term health, and I think you should too. A trend in the scientific community surrounds the health of our cells, and this affects all of us. I'm talking about us, the weekend warriors, to the pro athletes. We have something in our cells called NAD, which supports our energy and our body's ability to repair itself all the way down to the cellular level. Well, it turns out that NAD declines as we age. It also declines when we overexercise, don't sleep enough, and even when we're exposed to a virus. There is only one NAD booster that is backed by Nobel Prize-winning scientists, 10 published human studies, and regulatory approval for safety, and that's True Niagen. Additionally, True Niagen is NSF certified for sport. Visit TrueNiagen.com to learn more. That's TruNiagen.com to learn more. It's worked for me, and I think it can work for you.
So when you look back to those Washington years and you, I'm sure, read the story that came out, did that surprise you at all?
I didn't know to that magnitude because it's such a small area inside of Redskins Park. It's so small, like everyone's right there. So, you know, I don't want to say that I wasn't surprised. I'm not gonna say I was surprised. It's just that anything that comes out of there doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, it's a tough place to play for a young guy because there's so much drama there. Even when Scott got let go, I called Bruce Allen and I'm like, am I good? Like, am I gonna have a fair chance to compete? He's like, what do you mean? He said, well, I know I was Scott's guy, I'm not your guy. And you guys just signed DJ Swearinger. So, like, what's the deal? After I thought I did a pretty good job as a safety, never playing safety in my life, I thought I did pretty good. And he's like, no, man, if you're here, you know, we want you to compete, whatnot. So I'm like, all good, man. And then obviously they, you know, had Sua, they had DJ, they signed David Brew, they signed all these safeties. I'm just like, dude, I'm like, all right, man, you know, once again, surviving.
Right, and you saw it coming.
I don't want to say this. I don't want to say I saw it coming because I look at it too. I always take the responsibility. If I look in practice, maybe one of my knockdowns in practice, what if I just put my other hand and picked it off?
Right.
That could have given me a better chance, right? I probably had a really clean preseason game. Maybe there was one play where I could have did something extra. Maybe that would have helped me out, you know? So, but I just remember talking to my wife, and I was just so miserable. I was like, dude, like nobody cares about football over here, and that's not. I don't play just to say I'm in the NFL. It's the only thing I ever done. I played since I was 6. That's the only thing I ever done. So when I did get the call, saying like, hey, we're gonna let you go, I'm like, cool, man. They were like, can you come in the office and come see Jay and Bruce? I was like, hell no. I'm not going. For what? You guys just told me what I need to hear.
I'm out.
If you wanted to talk, you guys could have given me a heads up a long time ago. Oh, by the way, you're low, man. What's going on here, man? Let me help you out, man. Let me help you out here, man. So I remember too, later that night, I got a text from Bruce. He's like, hey, man.
Bruce Allen.
Bruce Allen. If you don't want to come in here, he said, let's meet somewhere.
Like for a beer or something.
Yeah. Let's meet. I'm like, all right. So I gave him a spot. I think we went to Parallel Wine Bistro in Ashburn. Mm-hmm. That was like my go-to spot because they had all the wine machines and stuff like that. So we met up there, and which that's what I can't respect that. Like he wanted to meet in person. We had a legit conversation, and he was like, "Man, I didn't know how people felt about you in the organization because there were people in that building pissed off about that they let me go, even faculty, people who weren't in the football side, the operations side." So that was that, man, and I was just so over it because once it starts becoming more about business, and people forget about the football part. That's where it's like I'm not gonna live away from my family and deal with nonsense. Same reason why I left Canada. Like I'm not gonna do that, man.
Well, I feel like that was, at least during my time there, that was a tough building to be in because there was always drama. There was always something extra going on, and
especially when you've seen it.
Right.
When you see what it should look like. When I was on the Giants, I mean that place ran so clean. The year we won the Super Bowl. Same thing. Green Bay, historical place. Jacksonville was up and coming. They were young. They were still trying to figure it out. That's why we had players come from Seattle to the Redskins. They were like, what the hell is this, dude? Drink when I say heli. What the hell is this? There you go. Because in Seattle, oh gosh, that's the most perfect place on earth to go play football. Everything's for them. Everything is for the players. No drama.
That was the best. And you weren't there that long.
I wasn't. I was just there for training camp, 2 training camps.
And that was the most ideal organization out of the ones you played for?
That was the most ideal in terms of like it's very player friendly. It's just about the players.
Was that because of Pete?
Yeah, it was because of Pete.
Yeah.
Pete was like, Pete and John, they're like, no, equipment-wise, no budget, whatever they need. Get all the latest stuff, get all the best stuff, get all facility, get all the right food, get all the nutrition, get everything so that these guys can go compete.
See, people I don't think realize that every NFL team is its own company. They're not all the same. So one can operate like Morton's and one can be operating like Subway. And some of them do. So there are actually times when, you got whatever you wanted from a standpoint of equipment and all that in Seattle. But were there times at other places where you needed to get something like, oh, we're not ordering that, or that's not available, or we got to wait a month, or was that an actual thing?
I would say every team I went to, equipment was pretty cool with it. Green Bay could have been stingy a little bit because those guys have been there forever.
Right.
So they ran a tight ship, which is fine. We still got the best stuff there.
Right. But food and facilities were very different, right?
Food and facilities were different, yeah. So it depends where you were. Another example, I can say Jacksonville. I had a conversation with Gus Bradley when he first got hired. And he said he had a meeting with Shad Khan. And Shad was like, what do you need, Gus? He's like, what do you mean? He said, look here, like, what do you need? He's like, well, I will let you get a new locker room, a new weight room, a new medical, training room and all that stuff. He was like, done. As soon as Gus was hired, broke around, they did all this stuff.
Wow. Because
that's what he wanted. It was about just legit
because
football.
He was coming from Seattle.
Yeah, it was legit about football, though, is what I'm saying. Where, okay, Redskins, when we signed Josh Norman, Josh goes in the locker room. Josh was like, what the heck is this? So there's rumblings in the facility saying, like, Josh thinks our locker room is terrible. We broke ground like a week later.
Are you talking about the locker room in Ashburn?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And literally we had construction like a few months later.
Wow. Man, if only he had as much sway on the field as he did in the locker room. Then
I know it was just different, man. Josh did well when I was there because I understood Josh. So I would go above and beyond to help him out. I knew he was an aggressive player. Okay, so let him shine, let him be aggressive. Let me hover over more so he can be aggressive.
Right.
Except there was one game, we were in London, we played the Bengals, which was the worst game ever because it was a tie. And he looked at me. I remember he was in his coverage and he looked at me like I guess wanted me to hover over and do something. I'm like, not this play. He's like, come on, Will, let's go. I was like, bro, I said 75. He was like, what's that? I said, you make $75 million, dude. I was like, not today. AJ Green's your guy. I'm going over here.
You got to man up on him, and I got to help somebody else.
Yeah. I say 75. He's like, huh? I said 75 million. That's yours.
This is in the middle of the
This is
game.
the middle of the game. Oh yeah.
And
Dude,
he knew exactly what you were
He knew
saying.
I meant, yeah. There's so many things though. Games are funny. I wish everybody is mic'd up because funniest shit happens in games.
That is hilarious. That is freaking 75. Oh my God, I can only imagine. He's like, damn, I'm on my own island.
He's
right
like, is that
now.
a cover? I'm like, 75 million. He was like,
That's amazing. Any more football stories, or can we talk wine now?
we can talk wine. I'm sorry. I can talk football forever.
No, I love talking football. I mean,
Yeah.
like, dude, just unload. The more stories, the better for me. All this thing is for me
Yeah.
is story time.
Yeah.
You know what this is? I wanted to do this because when I loved hanging out in the green room more than anything.
And that's where you
with
hear
guys.
everything.
That's where you hear everything. And so much of it revolved around rookie years and some stories you can't tell, some stories you can tell, some stories were on the field, some stories weren't. But that was my favorite part of the day.
So I got the perfect segue to wine.
Okay.
I probably told this story 100 times, but not on the HeliPod.
All right.
So people were like, hey, how'd you get serious about the wine business or what made you get into it? And I was like, well, obviously Charles Woodson was there. Charles Woodson has his own wine company, his own wine label, his own winery. And he would always take the defensive backs out to dinner on every away game. And
Did he pay for it?
He did pay for it.
Wow.
Yeah, he did. So I never dealt with hazing with him. Anywhere he went, he paid.
I love that.
Or sometimes, he'll be like, hey, well, can you get this? I'm like, yeah, whatever, of course. I will pay for you, Charles.
You're my wallpaper, bro.
Okay, yeah, exactly. Or Al Harris was the worst, though. Al Harris would come and sit down and eat with us, and then he'll, go to the bathroom and
When
go
the
to his
check
car.
came?
No, before the check came.
Yeah, but he'd be out of there when the check would come.
He would eat his food. So we used to go the Hooters in Green Bay, right?
Yeah.
He would eat his crab legs, and then he'll go to the bathroom, and then we look outside. He's in his car leaving.
Just the Irish goodbye.
Irish
He
goodbye.
wouldn't say bye to no one.
So Charles would always take us out to dinner, and he would always order really nice wines. And I don't remember any of them. I wish I recorded them then, like I do now. So there was one trip. It was 2008. We were going to Minnesota. And we always stayed in downtown Minneapolis. And they had this restaurant called Seven, which is a really nice restaurant. And we went there. They gave us a cool table in the back room. I think there was a fireplace back there, and it was about, 4 or 5 of us. It was me, Tramon Williams, Charles, Nick Collins. I think that was it. Maybe Patrick Lee was with, I can't remember. But I know it was us 4 for sure. So we have our dinner, order a bunch of wine. This time McCarthy gave us a bunch of time because it was a short flight from Green Bay to Minnesota. And so we just have maybe 4 or 5 bottles of wine, right, amongst the 4 of us. And then there's a club upstairs. We heard music, and the lady's like, yeah, there's music upstairs, you want to go. So we go upstairs, and she gets us a little couch area. And then I remember we saw Joe Buck and Troy Aikman because they were calling the game.
Right.
So Charles orders more wine, and then he actually orders shots, right? So we got a midday game. So they come over and they have drinks with us.
Joe and Troy.
Yeah. They just came and stopped by just for a
Yeah.
quick second. It wasn't like they sat down the whole time. And so we're there for a while, and the next thing you know, okay, we got to get back for nighttime meetings. And I remember my head was just pounding, and my eyes were so glossy, and I'm just dude, this is not good for me anyway.
What time of night was this, right, when you're leaving the restaurant? Like 9?
No, it was like close to 8, I think
Okay.
it was. I think meeting was 8:30, I can't remember. I definitely don't remember. So, I mean, my head is just pounding. And that's why I should have learned my lesson in terms of like, you can't go places with these veterans because they're just different. So my rookie year, we go play the Lions in Detroit, and we go to the clothing store. And I remember Charles Woodson, Al Harris, Nick Collins, these guys are shopping without looking at price tags. Oh, I want this. Everyone's fighting over clothes. I want this, I want this, I want this. And they're just dropping clothes on the register. And I'm like, I want this, I want this. And I dropped my clothes on the register and I saw the damn price. I was like, oh no. I was like, I don't make that much yet. And I'm like, okay, never again. Same thing, go out with these guys for dinner and they having all this wine. They're totally fine. I know Charles was. And so we go back, have our meetings, and I get up the next morning and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I feel horrible. And we got to play the Vikings, which I feel like is more of a rivalry than the Bears, even though the Bears have the history.
Right.
Minnesota hated us for real. And I never get into rivalries. Even though I was at Boston College, I didn't get into the Notre Dame rivalry. I didn't care about that. It wasn't.
It didn't motivate you.
It didn't motivate, but for some reason, Minnesota drove me nuts.
Right.
I don't know what it was. So, okay, the game starts. I'm trying my best to hydrate, IVs, all that stuff. And boom, all of a sudden, Charles gets a pick. I'm like, that's Charles.
Of course.
Yeah, I mean, Charles can get a pick blindfolded. The ball just hits him in the face every time. It's so annoying, man. And then later that game, Tramon Williams gets a pick, who was with us. And I'm like, well, Tramon's actually, he's playing very, very well. He's now the starter opposite the other side. Then later in the game, boom, Nick Collins gets a pick 6. I'm like, what the fuck is going on right now?
Shots,
yeah. And then, meanwhile, I think my adrenaline's going. I think I sweat out all the wine. And then, boom, I get a punt return, perfect kick. Boom, I catch it. I take it back to the house.
Oh, this was the punt return touchdown.
The punt return, yeah, versus Minnesota. So we're in the sideline losing our minds. It's like, damn, dude, we got to go every night and have wine. So that did not happen. We didn't go every night, but I do have a few glasses before bed as like a superstition thing, and I started getting wine. So now after meetings, when I would go get snacks, people would be like, whoa, what are you having tonight? So they knew like I was going to have wine before bed.
Right.
But that's kind of where the wine and the NFL thing really started, of me sorting out specific wines.
So you got into this mode where you really started enjoying wine. At what point did you say to yourself, I'm going to really take this to the next level?
Yeah, well, I would say I enjoyed it, obviously, before that game.
Right.
Going to different corporate events and different functions and what have you. And especially at these events, people would talk to me and try to school me up on the wine. Like they were swirling, like, oh, look at the legs and da-da-da and all that stuff like that, And
Right.
I'm like, all right, whatever, man. And so I will continue to research and try to learn stuff myself. There was one particular dinner I went out in Milwaukee, and I remember this guy was like, hey, man, I'm going to order Burgundy. It's the best wine ever. So we ordered it, and it was actually pretty good. So on my own, I went to another place later on, and I literally was looking for Burgundy wine. And I opened the wine list, and there's maybe like 40 Burgundies. I was like, the fuck is this? So I was like, okay, maybe there's more than one Burgundy. So I picked one Burgundy, and then the waiter brings the wine, and it's a white wine. I'm like, this is not Burgundy. He goes, no, it is Burgundy. I said, no, the Burgundy I had was red. He was like, okay, Burgundy is a region. He was like, they have whites and reds. I was like, all right, dude. I'm like, whatever. So that night I went home and started like researching, studying, and that's kind of where I started getting a little serious to try to learn more information about it, because I really wanted to know what I was talking about. I really love wine. And then later on, that documentary on Netflix called Psalm, that came out, and I was like, that is different. That's a whole nother way of looking at wine, understanding it, and evaluating. Like these guys can literally smell it, look at it, taste it, and call the place, call the vintage, obviously the varietal. Crazy. So one of the guys in that film, his name was Peter Neptune. He was one of the master sommeliers, and he actually has a school in Costa Mesa. And I said, okay, when the season's over, I'm going. And I think we lost to the Giants in 16. And as soon as I came home, I took that class. And it was through the Wine and Spirits Education Trust.
Mm-hmm.
They call it WSET, WSET. I took level 2. I just jumped right to level 2 and ended up passing that with the merit. And that just changed everything for me. It changed how I looked at wine as a whole. And so, after I passed that, came back here for OTAs, and came back to the Redskins for the OTAs, and you were done at like 11, 12 o'clock, and then we had the rest of the day. So Leesburg, Virginia is actually a really hot region for wine. Like it does very well. It's very known and successful. So after practice, I would put on like my work boots and I would drive to Leesburg, Virginia, to like.
Oh, you worked at a winery?
Yeah, I would work at Fabioli Cellars in Leesburg, and I would get there and get my hands, feet dirty, and work on right after practice. I would drive there because I wanted to learn like the viticulture. I wanted to understand that. Thank you, Doug Fabioli. He's the one that hooked me up, who allowed me to go on his vineyard and hang out, and pretty much became a mentor. And that's kind of what happened, man. I just kept studying, kept asking questions and learning more and more about it, and I became addicted to me. I think what happened was, too, when I saw the film documentary, I noticed all the history, and I really fell in love with the history. And it's very similar to how I fell in love with football, because my father had all these old VHS tapes, with John Facenda and Sam Spence. I would sit there at 4 years old and watch these things. I was like, damn, this is so cool to watch the guys who paved the game for us. And I was like, that's what I want to do. I wanted to do it because of the history. Obviously I loved the attention was cool and being, a famous football player, but I wanted to do it because of the history. Same thing for the wine. I thought it was so cool to see like all the wars fought over wine, lives changed from wine. Jesus, served wine, like all kinds of stuff like that. And,
It's so much about geography too, right? That's what I didn't realize.
So it is like, I will say, if you know your geography, you're already like more than halfway there.
Yeah.
Because that's how you can tell like what's what. As long as you know the soil, the climate of each area, then you're good.
I remember my first trip to Napa, and we went to a couple of different vineyards, and they brought out that, what's the wheel, like the with all the different smells.
Yeah.
And you smell your wine, and I smell some floral. There's a little tobacco in there, and there was one. Somebody said, "It's a little barnyard," and I said, "What?"
Barnyard,
so
yeah.
Barnyard is one of the smells that people use to describe wine. I'm like, why would you want barnyard? But that's just something that some people pick up.
Right.
Those, some people pick up floral notes. Some people pick up barnyard notes.
So here's what I learned too. I learned that it's not like you have a natural gift. Like you don't just grab wine and you're like, oh, I get all of these things. It's actually taught. It's a taught process. So if you find a certain wine where everyone can find this one note, then when you're in a class, like, hey, in California Chardonnay, you're gonna get a lot of oak, you're gonna get a lot of butter, you're gonna get a lot of this and that, because that's what's known. That's the winemaking process.
The whole thing is fascinating, and I know next to nothing about it, but I can tell you this. There are a few places I would rather be on the planet than wine country.
Yeah,
and not just Napa, but all over the world,
right,
whether it's France or Italy.
So we did Santa Barbara earlier this year, and I just got back from Napa, and I could live there easily.
Well, I used one of your, we went to Melville and Santa Barbara.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Which was great, thank you. We also did Booker.
Booker's great.
Booker's great.
Did you meet Eric?
No, he wasn't there.
Okay.
He wasn't there, but I did have my favorite neighbor.
My favorite neighbor.
Which is really, that wine to me is so interesting because it's so kind of smooth and silky, but when you let it sit on your tongue for a minute, it has a very different taste than just going down. Like that is a wine that if you didn't know anything about wine, which I really don't, you could just pound. Like,
oh yeah,
it's smooth. But then if you then you get more of the tannins and more of like what's going on.
Yeah,
with
my favorite neighbor, and the Harvey and Harriet is the other one that's really good too.
Yeah, I have not tried that one. I could talk about wine for days, Will. I am signing up for your MVP wine club. Did I get the name right?
MVP, the wine MVP.
So tell me a little bit about the wine MVP before we wrap this up.
Yeah, so it came about because I initially wanted to have my own wine label. So everyone I spoke to that was a winemaker or in the wine business, they were like, listen, you can have the best grapes, you can have the best winemaker, the best whatever. At the end of the day, you got to sell the wine. Mm-hmm. Period. So I was like, okay, well, let me go work at a wine shop and learn how to sell wine with the retail side. So long story short, when that article came out, I'm like, okay, I need to expedite this process and get going on how to get this done. And
the article being?
The USA Today one.
That Mike Jones wrote about you. But being the NFL wine guy, which was what, 2 years ago?
Last year, actually. Yeah, okay. Being an NFL wine guy. So the company was going to be called NFL Wine Guy initially. But I was nervous about the acronym NFL, so I contacted NFL. They're like, yeah, we need all this. And I'm like, okay, I don't want to deal with it. So I talked to our creative director, Patrick Meyer, and we came up with the wine MVP, which I think works over all sports. You know,
100%.
I think it's great. And I ended up partnering with the wine exchange because it would have taken me probably like 6 months to get my own distributor license, wholesale license. And they've been around for 30 years. They're doing my fulfillment. It was just easy, for me. And so the process is, I picked 2 premium wines, and I picked them out, send them to your house, shipping included, for $79.98 a month. And what's different between my wine club and many is that there's nothing wrong with it. A lot of companies do private labels. Mm-hmm. So if you use apps like Vivino or Delectable, and you look up these wines, they will not show up because they don't exist.
The private label wines.
The private label wines don't exist because they buy bulk juice, they slap their name on it, and they sell it. So yeah, you can get 6 bottles for $40, and it's great marketing. If you don't know anything about wine, you like, hey, I got a good deal.
Looks good, right?
Looks good. But I'm actually getting wine with history because I want it to be a full educational thing, so that's pretty much what it is. Like last month, we had a wine from La Catena from Argentina, and then a wine from Spotswoods in Napa. And both of those wineries have been existing for over 100 years. Tons of history, tons of cool things about them. And then, you get 2 cool trading cards that come in there with stats on them and all that stuff.
About the wine.
About the wine. And there's tasting notes that I actually wrote down myself, which I got to get going and do that. So,
how do we find it?
Go to thewinemvp.com.
Okay.
Right there, and at the WineMVP Instagram.
I'm on it, man.
Yeah.
Dude, congratulations on your success. I love seeing what you're doing. We're all hustling
cool.
right now, man.
It's cool. A lot of things are coming up this year that I cannot announce, but hopefully, not hopefully, there are some things that are happening with a couple of cool magazines. But right now, fingers crossed, I have partners in the aviation company, and we're trying to bring JSX semi-private planes to Napa.
That would be amazing.
From Orange County, and probably Burbank.
And when does that happen?
90 days is the vote.
All right. I have no sway in Orange County. I have no sway really anywhere.
You got sway. You with me, man. You good.
Cheers, my friend.
My man.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, bro.